Welcome back to Turner Farm, where we work hard and play hard and share our little slice of heaven tucked away in the hills of rural Nova Scotia. Join us as we share parts of our life here on the farm, favorite recipes, and lots of tutorials on how we raise, harvest, and cook our food from scratch for our small family 12 months of the year. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. It helps us so much. So today I want to share something that I've always been super passionate about, and that is feeding the new mom. So I really truly believe that when a baby is born, the most important thing that they need obviously is their mother. And really the mom doesn't need you to bring her more gifts for the baby. She needs to be taken care of. But then it's up to the village in order for us to provide for the family so that they don't have to worry about doing things that they maybe did before having the baby, like cooking meals for the family or cleaning the house. And those are gestures I feel that the community needs to kind of step up and provide for the new family so that the partner can take care of the new mom and the new mom can just focus on caring for her new baby. So today we are going to walk through a care package that includes only food. So meals that they can put into their freezer and pop into the oven really quickly, snacks that they can have on hand or in the freezer to grab and go, especially if they have already older children that they need to provide for as well. And to me, this is the most important gift that you can provide to a new mom. And we're gonna show you our favorite places to get recipes for these types of things. We're gonna share some recipes, and I'm also gonna show you kind of all the things that I put together in our care package for our new mom. We're gonna do a biscuit chicken pot pie, and I'm gonna share the recipe with you on that. It's on my website, so I'm gonna link that for you. It's delicious. It's just like chicken pot pie, but it's so much easier because you don't have to make the pie crust. You can just make a bunch of biscuits and put them on top, and it's a really kind of awesome meal to have in the freezer to heat up for your family. And then we're also gonna make this, it's called Rancher's Pie, so it's from the Five Marys cookbook. I definitely recommend getting this cookbook. It has lots of awesome meals, especially for freezer meals or for new moms. And so we're actually making her Rancher's Pie. And we're going to put them in to-go containers, and I'll show you the containers. I just ordered them off Amazon, just like our, like aluminum containers that they can actually store in their freezer. And while I don't love to cook in aluminum, in this situation, it's the kind of the best way so that you don't have to scoop it out of one container and into another. And so then we're also cooking out of my cookbook, which is For the Love of Sourdough. And we're gonna be making the sourdough oatmeal cookies. An awesome one for breastfeeding moms. They have lots of good oatmeal in there, and you can make them with raisins or you can make them with chocolate, whatever you want. These also freeze really well. Then we're also gonna make a big batch of energy balls. I'll share that recipe with you as well. And then for us, because we make our own butter, we're gonna give them a little bit of butter to take home. Butter freezes really well, so if you do make your own butter, you can just stick it in the freezer and then you can give them frozen butter, or if you're gifting butter to someone, they can just take it out and let it defrost and use it just as normal. And then you can kind of keep bringing things over. What we like to do is just make a little bit extra for supper if we have a new mom that's living nearby, and you can make a little bit extra for supper, and then you can just pack some up and put it together for their family. Make a little extra meal and send it over to the new family.
Thank you guys.
We need lots of butter for these recipes today. I usually culture my butter, which means that I ferment the cream first so that we can end up with like a true sour buttermilk afterwards. I do this by putting kefir into the cream and then just leaving it to ferment on the counter overnight before churning it into the butter the next morning. The kitchen is always the busiest spot in the house. We always have milk to be processed and meals and snacks to be prepped. It's an all hands on deck space in the home that always has lots of ingredients and lots of dishes. We all contribute to our meals each day, and we try to sit down together as a family for most of them. We're just rinsing our butter. We're going to use this for the biscuit top on the chicken pot pie, and then also for some cookies. You just have to squeeze all the buttermilk out of it. So you just have to make sure that when you're squeezing it, you get all those milky parts rinsed out. So I'm using a simple rub on the chicken, just a mix of Italian seasoning, garlic, and onion powder, and then salt and pepper. And then I just coat both sides, and this will bake in the oven until it's fully cooked. Alternatively, you can use leftovers from a roasted chicken for this recipe as well. All right, so this chicken is done. We're just gonna set it out to kind of cool. Chicken dinners are also a really nice one to kind of pack away, but we're just doing chicken breasts today. So we'll set those up, let them cool, and then we're gonna slice them up. So I actually have a really awesome sourdough biscuit recipe in our book, but I'm gonna show you a different one today that we're making with some homemade buttermilk. I'm gonna cut the fresh butter. So actually this stuff was made, it was in the fridge. So we want to use cold butter with this. Obviously we want flaky biscuits. So we want to cut that up. And so there's a couple different ways that you can do this with the chicken pot pie. So I mix it all up and make it into my biscuits and then put the base of the chicken pot pie and then just put the biscuits on top. Or my dad does it, so he mixes up the biscuit batter, or the dough, and then he puts the chicken pot pie filling on the bottom, and then he just rolls out the biscuit dough and slaps it on the top. And honestly, I kind of love that because it is so much easier and it tastes a lot more like a pie crust because, you know, we're making like a flaky dough anyways. So then we're just gonna take buttermilk that we had in the fridge. So every time you make butter, obviously you have to strain off the buttermilk. We fermented the cream, we cultured our butter, and then we have our, you know, our real traditional style buttermilk. And then we're gonna take our sourdough and pour that in. Okay, and we're just gonna start to stir that together. I'm gonna do exactly what my dad does. And we're just going to roll out the biscuit top and put it right on top of the pot pie. So we're just gonna mix up the oatmeal cookies now. So we just cream together the sugars and the butter and the eggs. And I'm not gonna lie, I usually do a little bit less sugar than the recipe calls for this one. And you can switch out the sugars. You can do maple sugar and coconut sugar instead of the conventional sugars as well. And so then we just have our flour and our baking soda and our salt mixed into here, and we're gonna pour this in with the wet ingredients. I do find if you're not careful, they will kind of pillow up a bit when they're cooked, and I don't love like a big fluffy oatmeal cookie. So you have to be really mindful that you're not over mixing these. So I just like to fold the flour in with the dough hook and just do it nice and gently. They are delicious frozen or thawed out, so it doesn't really matter. You can just keep them in the freezer all the time. And they freeze for about 6 months, so it's a good one to have, and it's a large batch. Okay, so we're gonna add in our oats now. Okay, and then our coconut, that's an unsweetened coconut. If you use a sweetened coconut, it just makes this cookie way too sweet. So just make sure you get the one without the sweeteners. So we're just doing half a cup of the coconut. Then we're just gonna add in our chocolate. So it's about 1.5 cups of chocolate, but you can, you can do raisins in this, so they make a really nice oatmeal raisin cookie, or you can mix up the chocolate chips and you can do walnuts and pecans and less chocolate. There's so many different ways that you can do this. So obviously you can make these as big as you want, but where they're gonna be keeping them in the freezer as like a quick grab and go, especially when you're nursing for that first couple weeks. It's nice to have something substantial that you can kind of grab out of the freezer or off the counter and just have something that can like actually fill you up. So I'm making these quite big. I usually don't make them quite this big. So we'll put them in for like 10 minutes. You have to be really careful with this recipe to not overcook it. It's going to seem like the center isn't fully cooked. Just trust me. do not keep cooking them past the allotted time. I kind of like to go around with these ones and press them down a little bit and sprinkle them with a little bit of coarse salt. You don't have to press them down. I like a flatter cookie. I don't like them to be really like pillowed up. I just wanted to show you these because they look really gooey on the middle. They do not look fully done, but I see that one, you can kind of tell. But they are nice and brown underneath, and once they cool, they are delicious. So please, please, please don't over bake these cookies. I can't stress it enough. Little trick, when you have frozen beef, you can put the ground beef in a pan, you can just put some water on top, and you can cook it like that. So you can kind of like bring it to a boil, and it will cook the outside layers. It will just keep cooking the outside layers, and it will cook right through the frozen beef. You just have to make sure that you keep water in here, and then once it's all defrosted and starting to cook, you can let the water kind of evaporate off and fry it up. So I always cook my ground beef from frozen. That's just a quick tip. If you are ever short on ideas for supper time, you don't have any meat taken out, that's a way that you can cook it from frozen. So I do actually have a video on my chicken pot pie, but we're just adding our butter into a heavy bottom saucepan, and then we're just gonna add in most of our vegetables on top. So we're gonna start with the carrots, just add those in, and garlic. And you can do that one at a time if you want to. Start with the garlic to get it fragrant, add in your onions and your carrots, or you can do it all at once if you're trying to streamline your process a little bit. You're gonna leave the potatoes out for now, but we're gonna just stir this around until the vegetables start to soften a little bit. They don't have to be fully cooked, but just so they start to soften. So once these get to a point that they are par baked, or par cooked, I guess, so just like the fork can go through them, but they still have a little bit of crunch to them, we're gonna come in with the flour. So it's kind of like making a roux with vegetables in there. So we're just going to sprinkle the flour in on top. And we're just going to mix that together before adding in our liquid, and we'll just get it all thickened up. And all right, so while that is simmering, our pot pie filling, we're gonna do up our ranch pie filling. I like this recipe because it is tomato based, which is, in my opinion, way better for this type of recipe. So we have our potatoes that we're gonna boil and mash up over here. And then we just have our ground beef, onions, carrots, garlic. We're gonna add some tomato paste, some beef broth, and some peas. You can do soy sauce. And then we're just going to kind of thicken that all up and make it a really nice, yummy filling. So we add our peas in towards the end, and then we just simmer it till the carrots are nice and soft. Full disclosure though, if you are using this same recipe, you can just pause the video and screenshot the recipe from the book if you'd like, or if you happen to have this book. I put about 3 times as much tomato paste as what it calls for. I feel like it needs it unless you're only using 1 pound of ground beef. And I even do a little bit more of the beef broth as well. And then I simmer it until those carrots are nice and soft. My mic cut out here, but you'll see that I'm just rolling out the biscuit dough. So I'm not making any layers or anything in the biscuits. Just slap it on the counter, roll it out as thin as you need it to cover up your pot pie. So I just bought these aluminum kind of reusable containers, or I guess disposable containers, off of Amazon, and they have a lid. So they are easy to bake in and then go right into the freezer. And they're easy to transport in, so we're actually gonna bake it right in this. So we're just gonna pour a little bit of this in. That recipe probably makes more than what will fit in this container, or you can really jack it up if you want to. We'll just get a little bit more chicken. So I don't like to fill them to the top. You certainly can, like especially if you're making like a lasagna or something like that. I like to kind of keep it a little bit lower, and that just, I don't know, I find it easier to transport that way. When you put the cover on it, it doesn't spill over. If they heat it back up, it doesn't bubble over. So I like to kind of keep it like the halfway mark, and then we're gonna go in and we're gonna put our biscuit on top. I like to take my cover and then just kind of measure the top, and that's good enough because we can stretch it to the sides. And basically when you put this on, you're going to want it to go directly into the oven. Oh yeah, so this is even perfect. So that fit perfect. So that's going to go right into the oven. I'm going to poke some holes in that, and it's going to cook for probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes. And then we're going to let it cool completely and put the cover on, and it can go right into the freezer. And so then for our second recipe, it's a little bit warmer. I'm going to just pour that into our container and spread it out on the bottom. So then we're going to come in with our mashed potatoes, and we're just going to spread those around. So this actually doesn't need to go into the oven. I like this one for a meal. If you're bringing to someone, or if you're stashing in your own freezer, you just kind of make all the parts and then it freezes really nicely. Because it's all already cooked, then you can just take it right out of the freezer and pop it right into the ovens. And so at the end of a very productive day, we have supper for our own family, and then we also have our biscuit pot pie and our ranch pie and a large stash of oatmeal freezer cookies, or they can leave them on the counter, whatever they choose to do. And then also a whole bag of energy balls. So those are awesome to have on hand too, especially for nursing moms. Lots of oats and coconut and peanut butter, raisins, chia seed, all the good stuff. One of these, because they're just a family of 4 and obviously the baby isn't eating, this will probably do them for 2 days. So they'll eat off of this, have leftovers, and it just feels really good to be able to support them in this way. And now we clean up. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos on how to cook all your meals and snacks from scratch for your family.